Hello and welcome to this live stream. My name is Tomáš Němeček and I will try to give you some information about the Merbon SCADA product and information how to install it and how to work with the software. First of all, I would like to ask you if you can give me some feedback that you can hear me and the quality of the sound is good or something like that, because I don't have that much information about the live stream. I can only see what you can see, and you should be able to type into the chat, I hope, and you can do that only if you have your Google account signed in. So please give me this information if everything's okay, and if everything is okay, we can try to go through the whole event. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. Thank you, Randall, for the feedback, and I will try to go through this live stream. This live stream should contain information about the Merbon SCADA, so the new product of Nomad control system. And I will try to give you an example how to install the software, how to use it, and how to use the software RCware Vision for creating the projects, and how to export the projects from RCware Vision into the new SCADA. The Merbon SCADA is, we can say, a successor to the older software RCware Vision. The software RCware Vision was on market for almost 20 years, so there was a need to have something newer, and everything about this software should be already on our websites. If you go to the section download and software, there should be a section about Merbon SCADA, and there are some guides. There is a guide for implementation of the software, for functions overview, user manual, and the installation notes. This is the document that I will go through this live stream. It's quite important document, and it's really good thing to follow this document step by step. If you miss only one step in the installation process, the SCADA doesn't have to work. It's definitely good to say that the new SCADA is not that simple software as the RCware Vision was. The RCware Vision was just Windows application. It was just normal application. If you started, it was running. If you closed it, it wasn't running. The new Merbon SCADA is mainly used as a server application, although it can be installed on normal desktop computers as well, but it is running as a service in the Windows on the background, so it's not a typical application as the RCware Vision was. Here in the section download here, you should be able to find the installation file, some information about hardware requirements, and again the documentation for it. I will jump back to the installation guide, and I will say a few more words about the new Merbon SCADA and what are the differences to RCware Vision. The RCware Vision was quite unique software because it was editor for the SCADA and the SCADA itself together in one big application, in one big program. The new Merbon SCADA is only the SCADA part. The only way how to access the Merbon SCADA is through web. There is no other user interface to do it. You can only see the running projects on the SCADA, and you have to have some editor to create the projects for Merbon SCADA. Right now, the editor will be used the RCVR Vision. The RCVR Vision, or the newest version of RCVR Vision, should contain functions to export the projects from RCVR Vision to Merbon SCADA. So if you have some older projects and you want to switch them from RCVR Vision to Merbon SCADA, you should be able to do it. If you have running project in RCVR Vision, this project should be running without any problem on Merbon SCADA as well. There are some minor changes. For example, not every script function from RCVR Vision is supported in the Merbon SCADA, but we tried to do as much work as possible, so all the projects will be able to convert to Merbon SCADA. In the future, there will be a new editor for the projects, and if you have some experiences with Merbon IDE, with the development tool for the software for our DDC controllers, inside the Merbon IDE is HMI editor that is right now used to create definitions for terminal devices and for the smartphone application. This editor in future, next year, in the spring of next year, will be used to create definitions for new web server of the PLCs. So in the next release of IDE, there will be completely new web server for every single PLC that we have. And this editor will be used to create definitions for Merbon SCADA as well in the future. The plan is that you create only one definition and you can use it for smartphone application, you can use it for web server, and you can use it for SCADA as well, so you don't have to create it 4 times. And it's just, we're trying to save you the most valuable thing, and that is the time. Here is the topology of Merbon SCADA. The central point of the Merbon SCADA is the SCADA server itself. It's a service running on your computer or on the computer, and the only way you can connect to the SCADA server is through a web. So it's a browser-based or web-based application, and the users can connect to the SCADA only through web. So this is the big difference to RCVR Vision. If you've ever worked with RCVR Vision, there were 2 ways how to deal with it. One was to have just a remote desktop connection to the desktop PC, the actual PC the software was running on, and you could try to see the SCADA there, or you could try to create a web server, but it wasn't that easy and it was quite complicated and there were some limitations to it. Right now, the SCADA can be seen only through a web server. The SCADA is communicating with the PLCs, and the SCADA can communicate with database as well. And the data to database can be saved either directly from the PLCs, or it can go through the SCADA. So the SCADA can read out the value from the PLC and can save it to the database system. There are 2 ways how to work with historical data. One way is almost the same way as it was in the RCVR Vision. You can use the file history, so you don't need any database software. So if you create history in a file history, it's completely fine, but it's only meant to be used for smaller applications. So if you have, I don't know, application where you have 200 PLCs and you have tens and tens of thousands of data points in the database or for historical data, it's definitely better to use the database because it's going to be a lot faster and it's going to be better experience for the end users. Then we have domain server. Domain server is a server that takes care about the user policy. On the level of domain server, you will create the users, you will create the user groups, and you will create the user policy for your users. And then we have the alarm server here. The alarm server can contain historical information about the alarms that occurred in the Merbon SCADA, and it can be connected to messaging service as well, so you'll be able to send emails or SMSs from the alarm server. So you will have alarm here, this alarm will be defined here, and here will be created a reaction that when this alarm occurs, email should be sent to, I don't know, group of administrators that are defined here in the domain server. It's a little bit more complicated than it was on RC version, and this is the simple, or the, how to say that. There is a next picture of topology that is much more complicated, but this is the simple version, and I hope that you can see it there. The Merbon SCADA as itself is a little bit more complicated software, so there are hardware requirements for the PC that the SCADA should be running on. It's nothing extreme, but the RC version was software that can be run on any PC, but right now we have some recommendations. The first thing are the Windows. It's Windows-based application. It can be installed only on Windows, and supported Windows versions are Windows 8.1 and Windows 10, and Windows Server 2012 Release 2 and Windows Server 2016. The Merbon SCADA can't be installed on Windows 7, so don't even try it. There is no guarantee from our side that the software will be running on Windows 7. We recommend to use Windows 10. There are some hardware requirements, as I said before. We recommend to use not the cheapest computer on market. As I said, it can be installed on server or on normal desktop. We recommend to use computers that they have something like Core i3 or Core i5 CPUs. We definitely recommend to use computer that has at least 8 GB of RAM, of operation memory. I would suggest that the computer should have even more, but 8 GB is the lowest point, because the Windows itself will use like 2 or 3 GB, and the rest is for the normal work on the computer. I would recommend to use the SSDs as a disks if you have the choice, or if you can choose between normal hard drive and SSD. I would definitely recommend the SSD, because the experience for the end users will be much better, the loading will be better, the loading of the historical data will be better, and if you have option to choose between a normal hard drive and the SSD disk, I would definitely select an SSD disk. Of course, the recommendation next one is to have some sort of backup, so if you can run the SCADA in some RAID or something, do it, but do it with the SSD disks. It's going to be much faster, and it's going to be better even for you if you work on the computer and if you export the projects from RC version. To install the software, you need to have administrator account on the computer. You will be installing the software too, because you'll be doing some changes to the settings of the Windows, and you have to make sure that the ports that are written here are not used. Some softwares are using some ports, and you just have to make sure that those ports are not used. The SCADA server or the web server is usually running on port 80, so it's just HTTP. But if you have SSL certificate, you can without any problem run it on port 443 on HTTPS, but that's up to you. The domain server or the web server for domain server is running on port 9696, and the database is communicating on port 9876. And of course, the PLCs and the communication with the PLC is usually running on port 12346 for the new version and 12345 for the older version of PLCs. Even before you start the installation process, you should go through the add-ons and applications that are necessary for correct operation of Merbon SCADA and its components. The basic thing is you need to have .NET Framework 4.7.1 and newer or later. I would recommend to download the newest one. you need to have the .NET Core SDK version 2.1 and newer, and the thing that's the most crucial are those two packages, the Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable package version 2012 and 2015. Please download those two exact packages from those links and install them. Even if the software tells you that you have already installed them, try to install them again, because with or without those packages, the SCADA won't be able to install itself onto your computer. That's for the basics, and we can try to install it. I tried to uninstall the SCADA from my computer because I have it on my personal computer, and I've tried it before, so hopefully everything is uninstalled from my computer, and I will try to install it again. The file that you will or you can download from our web pages is it's called Merbon SCADA package. This package is installation software for the SCADA, and it's this software is not the SCADA itself. It's software that will help you to install the SCADA. So the first thing you have to do is to start the Merbon SCADA package MSI installation. And you should be without any problem able to install this software. I would recommend to install it into C apps folder. If you don't have it, it will be created automatically. Almost every single part of Merbon SCADA will be then installed into this folder. And I'll try to install it. And even here, during the installation process, if you have SSD disks, it should be quite fast process. If you have old classical hard drive, it will take a while. So we'll see if that goes through. I hope it's going to be fine. So it was installed. After the installation, you should be able to see one specific icon on the desktop. I will try to find it on my next screen. Yeah, okay, so it should be, I'll find it here. Here is the Merbon SCADA installer. If I launch it, it looks like this. Right now, I don't have any instance of Merbon SCADA installed, so I can't go through services, upgrade or uninstall. The only thing I can do is installation. I can launch the license tool and I can exit this application. If I go to installation page, the software will tell you which parts you have to check. If you have the .NET correct version installed, if you have administrative rights, if you have those packages installed. For those packages, even if this if it's green here and you didn't install them, I would recommend to go through the installation again, because the detection of those packages is quite tricky in the Windows. It's not 100%, and I would recommend to go through the installation of those packages even if they are green here. The one thing that's going to be red in most cases is the ISS part here. ISS is the I'm not sure about the abbreviation now, but it's the internet service on your Windows, and by default it's turned off, and you have to turn it on. So Internet Information Services, yeah, that's it. There are two ways how to turn it on. There is the Setup IIS button here. If you click it, it should do something and it should turn everything on. On some computers, this process fails, and it's better to go through it by yourself. But every time, I would recommend you to check if everything is the same way as it's here. You just have to go to the control panel, you have to go to the programs and functions, and you will find the Windows features where you can turn on the Windows features of your computer. And please make sure that every single checkbox looks the same as it is here on this screen. The same thing applies for the Windows Server operating system. So please make sure that everything here is checked the same way on your computer and on this picture. One checkbox missing here can destroy the application or the installation process of Merbon SCADA. So please make sure that everything looks the same here. The next page here is this button here is for the refresh of this page. The next page is the installation itself. You have 5 parts you can install. The first one is Merbon SCADA server itself, so that's the server. Merbon database adapter. Merbon database adapter is used in situations where the PLCs are saving information directly to the database, to the Merbon database. If you are not using this way, that the PLC is communicating to SCADA and the SCADA is saving the information to database, and you're using the direct route, you have to use the Merbon database adapter. Here is the Merbon database itself. Merbon alarm server, as I said, it's used to create the messaging or messages, and it's used to store the history of the alarms. And Merbon domain server is used for creating the user policy. So we will try to install the Merbon SCADA server. We will try to install the Merbon alarm server and the domain server. Here on SCADA server, you see that I have to use some license file. If you want to use the SCADA, you have to buy a license. If you write us an email, and we will send you a license number. The number can look something like this. You can't use the number here or some sort of file here. You have to create a file that's specific for your computer. This file needs to be uploaded to our web pages, where you will enter your mail address, and there will be an email with a link to download the license file that is specific for your computer. The license file is connected to your computer, so if the computer breaks down and you need to change it, you would have to write us an email that you changed the hardware, and we will have to allow you to make another activation of that specific license. So if I launch the license tool, I can enter the number here. I can create an activation request, and this should create some sort of file. I will try to place it here into this folder, and if I go to the installation manual, here is the link to our web page where you have to enter that file. So I will try to find that file. File is here. Next, I will enter my email. In this case, I will click on next, and I should get a message that I should check my email box. I will try to do that. Just give me a second. I will for a while disable the screen here, so I will check my email box. And I will try to find the mail. I will try to open it so you'll be able to see it. So It should look something like this, and here you can just click on the link here, and it should take you to the browser, and you should see the download the activation file option here, and I will just download the activation file. I will copy this file again into this folder so I have everything on one place. And I can go back to the installation software, and I can enter, or I can use the software here. It's this file with this type of file. And it's green. Green means that everything's okay. There are two checkboxes here, the file history and stop websites. As I said before, there are two ways how to store your historical data. You can use either file history or Merbon database. During the installation, you can choose which way you will be using. I will choose the file history because I don't have Merbon database. But you can, of course, change it in the future. It's all written in the installation guide. The stop websites option here means that if there is some website running on your computer in the IIS, it will be stopped, and then our websites and the website for Merbon SCADA will be installed there. If you've never had the Internet Information Services launched on before, there's always Windows Web running on port 80, and this web page will be stopped by this option here. For the alarm server, I have to do the same thing because it's licensed as well, so I will use next license number. I will create an activation request. I will save it here. I will go again to this web page. I will select a file. I will select the file, click on next, select my email, click on next. And again, I should receive an email with the link to the web page. I will click on it, and I will be able to download the activation file again. I will again copy it here, and I should be able to use it here. It's green again, so everything seems to be fine. For the domain server, there is no need to use any license number or anything for the domain server. The only thing you need to choose is the password. You will have the information here. The password should contain at least one non-alphanumeric character. It should contain at least one number. It should contain at least one capital letter, and it should have at least 8 characters. So I'm not sure. Oh, we'll see. I will create some sort of password. Here it's completely up to you, but please make sure that you don't lose this password. This password is the most important password of all of them. This password is the password for the domain admin, and the domain admin is the administrator of your user policy server. So if you lose this password, it's not that easy to make everything working back again. So please don't lose this password. Make sure that it's saved, that it's on some safe place. Is the most important password of all. So we have the SCADA server here, we have the alarm server here, and we have the domain server here. Everything is green. So I will try to launch the installation process, and hopefully it will go through without any hesitation. This process can take a while. It depends on the computer, but it should be done in matter of I don't know, few minutes. If you want to try to install the software on your own and you don't have the license yet, please send us an email and we will generate you a testing license that's meant for you to test the software. The license will be limited to 40 data points, so you will be able to try it on some smaller projects, and we will send you as well software that's already created, or the project that's already created in RC Vision. There is a software for Merbon SCADA as well, and this software contains roughly 36 data points, and it should contain every single type of data point that can be done in RC Vision. This will take a while, so I can show you the software. It looks like this, and there is a digital indicator, alarm, time schedulers, all three of them, analog setter, digital setter, analog indicator. So everything is here, and there is some sort of graphics for that as well, or at least it should be. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the older version of the software, so I will just have to find a newer version somewhere on my computer. So I'm sorry for that, I will do that later. I will try to write my colleague to send me those files. And here, if you click on those 4 lanes here, you can see the application log. You should see some information here that everything is looking fine. And check it here. It will take a little bit longer here because the streaming software is using quite a bit of my CPU, so there is not that much CPU left for the installation process, but I hope it's gonna be fine. I will just check this part here. If the Merbon SCADA software, it seems to be the older version as well, and I will switch it to English. Okay. For some reason the is black. I'm sorry about that. The software for the streaming is not the easiest one to operate, and when I launch the Merbon SCADA, it should be working without any problem. Working, yeah, so it's on again. So the installation is still in process, and I will try to. I can even ask through the live stream my colleagues if they can send me the software, please. Because I don't have the latest version, and I wanted to show it on the latest version. Just please give me a second. I will mute my microphone for a few moments, and I will wait for the installation. Okay, so the installation should be fine. We will check that in a moment. I will just launch back my full screen so I'll be able to see what you can see. Okay, so the installation process is done. I will just exit the software here, and there are a few ways how to check if everything is running. If I go to my web browser and I will type just the localhost, there should be some web server running on your computer, and you can use the domain admin to log onto your computer, and I just hope that I remember the password. Okay, I'm logged in, so I know that the domain server is working because it was checked to the domain server, and the SCADA server as itself is working as well. So if I go to the localhost on the port 96 and 96, let me check it, I can log in as a domain admin. So here you can see the users that are already here and the groups that are already created. So I know that the software is running, the Merbon server is running, the Merbon domain server is running as well. So the next thing I can try to do is to create or to use some project from RC Vision. So it will be running on the RC Vision, and then we will export it to the Merbon SCADA. I can close this window here. So finally my colleagues sent me the software. I will run and upload this software to the Windows runtime I have running here. So just give me a second to make sure it's running on the Windows runtime. Okay, it seems to be running, and I have the software for the RC Vision as well. I will just check here that it's running as a localhost. Okay, and hopefully it will be running as well. I can even check the graphics here. It looks like this. Right now it's in Czech, but I hope it's quite easy to understand it even if you don't speak Czech. There is a indications for alarm, for temperatures, and there is a set value for the temperature, and those are the time schedulers. So I can go back to the point editor, and right now I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure if there is any way to switch the RC version to English. I will just ask my colleagues again because it will be easier for you if it's in English. So just please give me a second. Okay, so my colleague saved me again, so we should be able to see the RC vision in English right now, and I hope that everything is English, and it looks like it is, so great. So we can go on and we can go through the process of exporting the software. Yeah, you should be able to see what I see. So if you have the latest version of RC Vision, you should be able to have the export to SCADA option here. If you click on it, you should see a window, something like this. Those places here should be empty. In your case, in my case, it's already something there because I used the software before. The first thing here is a folder where the exported projects will be saved. On your computer, you should already have a folder that's called Vision Data. If you don't have it, please create the folder Vision Data on your C drive or on your hard drive. And in this folder, there should be folder SCADA. Into this folder, we will save the projects for the Merbon SCADA. The Merbon SCADA will load the projects from this folder. But when we export the project, we don't want to overwrite the running project. So we want to export the projects into some other folder. So that's the reason why I use the folder export here. So into this folder, all the projects will be exported and you will not overwrite the running projects. Here is a folder for file history, and if you want to use the file history, you can create a folder for the file history here. There are a few more checkboxes here, and the meaning of those checkboxes should be described in the implementation guide that can be downloaded from our web pages as well. For the easiest way to export the projects, you don't have to change anything, or you can change it so it looks the same way as it is here. And then you can, I will just check the advanced setting here. Yeah, here quite important thing is this checkbox here, set run for exported projects on SCADA server startup. If you don't have it here, you would have to manually change one XML file to make sure the software is running or the project is running after the SCADA is start. But if you check it here, it will be prepared for you automatically. So if you click on export all, it will start to export every single project and every single station you have on your RCware vision. If I click on export selected, it will export only the selected ones. So I will select the Merbon SCADA demo. I will click on OK. I will click on this here, and this is how the export process looks like. And on the end of the process, you should be asked to press a key. It's not any key, you just have to press the Enter key. That's the only key that's working for this dialog. Okay, so the project was exported, and you can see here in my Vision Data folder, I can see the export folder. This folder contains two other folders, the temp and SCADA. I will go to SCADA, and that contains another two folders, the CFG and the projects. The CFG is for configuration, the projects is for the projects themselves. For the first run of the Merbon SCADA, I can copy both of them because we don't have any other project running on the SCADA here, and I will just place them here. Right now, what I have to do is to restart a Merbon SCADA server because the server needs to load the data from this folder. You can do that by two ways. You can go to the services dialog of your computer, or you can launch the Merbon SCADA installer, and here there's an option to check the services, and you should be able to stop and run again the Merbon SCADA server from this window as well. The next thing I will do is that I will create a user, and that user will be able to access those web pages. So if I go to the localhost and on port 9696, and I will log in as a domain admin, I will be able to create a new user here. The one thing that's important, that during the process of export there are two user groups that are created for every single project that is exported. Those groups are SCADA admins and all users. Those two groups are defined in every single project that is exported from RCware Vision. The SCADA admins or users from group SCADA admin can read and write to every single project that is on SCADA server. The users from the group all users can only read the values from the project. So if you have simple project, if you have, for example, only few stations, and you have few users, and you don't have to create some crazy user policy, you can use those two groups, and you don't have to use anything else. So I will create my new user. You have to fill in the login. You can fill in the name, surname, and the description, and you have to fill in the password. What will I try? I'll try something, and we'll see if that works. Let me try another password here. Sorry, the user admin is already existing. My fault. So let's call him user. Yeah, that's better. The user admin was already created here. That's my fault. So I have the user here, and I want that this user will be part of the SCADA admins group. So I will find the group here. I will click on add. I will click on update. Yes, and right now this user is part of SCADA admin. So next page I will open is typical localhost. This is the Merbon SCADA. And I will try to log in. I hope that the password was okay. And I should be able to see the Merbon SCADA demo project here. I have already some alarm running here. And you can see that the values are somehow communicating. It's refreshing here, and it seems to be fine. So if I go, for example, here, and I will change the value to 30, it should change here as well. So we have the SCADA running, and it's communicating and it's running without any problem. Let me check if there is a folder for file history as well. So it's saving the history here, and I hope that we'll be able to see the history as well. Not sure about it right now. It's not there yet, but we'll make it working hopefully right later on. So right now we have the SCADA server running. We have the project running in the SCADA server, and it's communicating without any problem here. I will just check those, and I will make sure that I just want to make sure that file history will be working. I'm not sure which values are saved into the file history right now, so I will just check it here. Seems that some files, some values from the because those are not tagged as long-term history. The other one, sorry. Okay. So I just changed that even those values will be saved into the file history. I will save the stuff here, and I will just make the export to SCADA again. We will be able to see the file history. Everything about the file history and the databases is written in the implementation manual again, so please check that manual, and of course if you have any question, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll try to answer your questions. So I will go to export again, and I will just copy the project from the exported project, and I will stop the Merbon SCADA server. I will overwrite the project. This data.x file is just temporary file. It will be created again, so I can erase that. I will launch the SCADA again. And if I log out here and log in again, hopefully okay, so after a while we'll see the values here. I don't have an error here anymore, so the values will be here. So as I said before, the easiest way how to export a project without any user policy is just go through the dialog there, and that's it. The SCADA server, SCADA admins, and all users, they have rights or access to every single project that you will export. If you want to have groups that are specific only for this particular project, you can use those groups. There is a group for full control, alarm operation, and read only. If I click on export access policy rights here, I hope those will be exported, and you can create the group of the name. Here will be the project name, and you can change those. You have to create those groups in the domain server, and then you can add a user to this group, and those groups are specific to this project. So if you have 10 projects and you want to make sure that the users can see only their project, you can use this option here. This option will create the groups that are specific only for that project. I will just try to check the history data here. It will take a while, but okay. So the SCADA is running. The next thing I will try to show you is the configuration of the alarm server. It's nothing that is extremely complicated, but you just have to follow the steps. The first thing you need to do is to export the alarms from this RCware vision into the alarm server. So you have to go here, you have to tap on edit, backup parameters of selected data points. I will unselect all stations because I want to use only one station. And this is the button for alarm server export. I can click on it, and you have to make sure that this address here is the same as I have it here. Here I should be able to use the domain admin user, I hope. Yeah, I have already some configuration there, but I will try to make sure that we have new stuff imported and merged. So you should be able to load it. It should look like this. You should be able to click here, and if you click on import and merge configuration, you should get the information that the alarms were merged, and you can see the result in the tree view. This is the thing that I created here, and I should be able to save the configuration to the alarm server. Yes, I want to upload it to the alarm server, and I have some mistake or something bad here, so I will just check if my domain admin here, so I will use the admin user, maybe that will work. Sorry. Or I will play. Yeah, that's better. So I just had to make sure that the domain admin or the user I'm using here has the rights of alarm server administrator, so it can read and write the values into the alarm server. So okay, it was uploaded to the server. That is one part. The next part is to check if that works. So you can go to your C folder, you can go to your apps folder. Here you should have a folder that's called Merbon, and here you should have the Merbon alarm server, and here is an editor, and it should look like this. When I launch it, it looks like this, and I should be able to download the information from the alarm server. This table here should be filled in the same way as I have it here. It's described in the implementation manual as well. If I click on OK, I just have to make sure that everything's fine. Okay, now our server is running. Just please give me a few seconds. I will try to make sure that I have everything same or the way it should be. So I'm sorry, I just have to apologize because for unknown reason I'm not able to connect to the ARM server. I tried it on this computer like 50 times before and it worked without any problem, but I tried to uninstall every single part of the RC of the Merbon SCADA just right before this live stream, and I tried to go through all of that again, but for me unknown reason I'm right now not able to connect to the alarm server editor. So I will create a separate video for this that will be uploaded to the YouTube, so you have all the information you need. The information will be about the alarm server and the messaging, because those two things are connected together, and I won't be able to show you the messaging as well because I won't be able to connect to the alarm server. So I will create a separate video for that. So we'll just move on, and I will just check here if finally something happened here. It doesn't seem to be working as well. Sure. Okay, so those values are here. So maybe we'll have to wait a little bit longer, so we'll be able to see those values as well. So I will create a video for the alarm server and the messaging separately, and it will be placed on our YouTube channel, so you will be able to make a setup of that as well. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the user policy. It's a thing that can be quite tricky and quite complicated, and I will try just to go quickly through it because it's not that easy to explain it right like in during 5 or 10 minutes, and it can create a quite big mess in your heads. So as I said before, the SCADA admins user and all users, SCADA admins group and all users group are created for every single project. Users from those groups can access every single project on that Merbon SCADA. So if you have a user in SCADA admins group, he can go and he can read and write values to any project. The user policy is, you can say, defined on a few places. If I go, for example, here into the export, and I can go to the configuration folder, there are two files. The first one is the behaviors config. This file defines which project will be started when the SCADA is started. So if you have 20 projects, you have to make sure that all the projects are here and they are set as a local start. This number here is the ID of the project that can be found, for example, here in the project folder. The next file that is here is the project's config. This file here defines one part of the user policy. It defines which pages on the web server the users or the groups will be able to see. So you have the SCADA admins here, you have the all users here. The rights that are defined in this folder are not the rights to read or write the values. The rights here are only to see those three windows: the project table view, the chart view, and the schema view. So here, SCADA admins and the all users, they have almost the same. They can view, that's for the schemas. They can view in generic text view, that is for the project table view, and they can view in chart view. If I, for example, I can do that on the running project here, so I'll be able to show you this. Yeah, let me try it. So if I, for example, here for the view, if I type in the false, so the SCADA admin group should not be able to see the schemas, and I will restart the SCADA server. Hopefully we'll be able to see the difference. Okay, so if I open the Merbon SCADA demo, trying to open a schema, but I don't want it to open on schema. Okay, so it always tried to open on schemas here, so this wasn't a good example, but I will try it. Here I will disable for the all users the generic text view. If I go here to Merbon editor, and I will create a new user, for example, all. User will be part of all users. Yeah, this finally worked, that I'm able to see only the schema and the chart, but I'm not able to see the button for the generic text view for the project table. So here in this file, you define which pages or which parts of SCADA you are able to see. This is not connected to the project. This is meant for, when it's like this, it's meant for every project. Here, it's getting a little bit more complicated. You have the project ID, that's going to be used as number 1, and here those two definitions are used for every single project, and the rest is used only for the project number 1, that is here. And you can see here we have the 3 different groups that were created because we had the option here checked that I want to create the privacy access for those groups. So this file contains information which pages are visible on Merbon SCADA. There are 2 more files or 2 more places where the user policy is defined, and those places are in the project. One place is here, it's called the data file, and one place is here in the schemas config. The data file config contains information about the list of data points, and it tells which groups can control which parts of the data point list. And here in schemas, this contains information about the users and groups that can access to the schemas. So if I open it, it's again an XML file. It's not that hard to go through it. We have only one schema here in our case, and the first part here, the group number 1 can access every single one, but for example, yeah, here we have rights that are specific only for this schema here. So schema number 5, the user RC admin and user František can view, edit and delete in this schema. So the important thing for you is that they can view and edit, so they can read and write the values there. Is the same for the SCADA admins. For the all users, as I said before, they can only read the value, so they have only rights to view. They are not able to edit the values. So they are able to read the values, but they are not able to write into the values. Similar principle is used here in the data file. This one is a little bit more complex because it contains information about every single data point that is in this project. But for example, if I try to find SCADA admins, how it's right manually. Okay, it's together. We have one group that's called RC Rights 3. This group can access every group of data points, because in RC Vision you can select to which groups of data points can certain user access. So the RC Rights reads contains all groups, and again SCADA admins can view, can execute alarm actions, and can do everything they want. The all users again can only view. They are not able to execute the alarms, and they are not able to write. Here again you have the Merbon SCADA demo řízení is the group that is generated during the export. It should have rights for full control, so it can view, execute the alarm actions, and use action properties. That's fine. This one can only view and execute alarm actions. That is the alarm operation group, and the read-only group for this project can only view. The rest is set to false. If you have some users in RC Vision and you have them defined here, you have some user and you define that the certain user can access only one group of data points, or can only write or view one group and write into more groups or something like that, everything will be defined here. So you have the group 1, you have data points that are in the group 1, and you have the user rights for the group 1. So you can see that the RC nobody is defined here, that it can this user can do everything with the data points from group 1. Here in RC Vision you can see that this user can't do anything else, only group 1, so we won't be able to find the RC nobody user here. And we can say that, see that even because, yeah, it's used only once here because it doesn't have any other reference number, as for example the RC admin has. If you wanted to select some user rights for the schemas, it is, maybe it's just give me a second, I just have to find the dialog. Okay, it's here, it's slightly different in English. So if you have more schemas in one project and you want to define which user can access to which schema, you can do that here in Access Policy Edit, where you can select that this user can access to this schemas and this user can do the same to that schemas. And if you export it to SCADA and you check this export access policy rights, all the users that are defined here will be created into the export files. And the next thing you have to do is just to create the users in the domain server. If the username of the user is the same in RC version and domain server, you will be able to log in as the user, and you will be able to export the user rights from the RC version to Merbon SCADA. But this is only for more complicated projects. When you have something simple, you are always good to use the SCADA admins and the all user groups. And if you want to create something more advanced for the first project, I would recommend you to contact us. And if you have everything prepared on your mind or on some, I don't know, spreadsheet or something like that, we'll be definitely able to help you go through the process of creating the user policy, and we'll be able to help you to find the easiest solution for you, so it won't be that hard. It seems to be hard at the first project, but once you do the one project that is a little bit more advanced, it will everything connect in your head and you will be able to see it there. So those are the basics for Merbon SCADA. I'm sorry about the problem with the alarm server, and I will, as I said before, I will try to make it working today and upload a new video. When you do the installation on clear computer, it usually works without any problem. The problem with my computer is that I use this computer for testing of the Merbon SCADA, and I tested more than 20 versions of Merbon SCADA on this computer, and somehow it had to stop working today for this video, so I'm sorry about that. And as I said, I will try to upload a new video with the alarm server and the messaging services set up to the YouTube channel of the mod control system today. So those are the basics. The most important stuff is to go through the installation manual or installation notes when you try to install it, and follow all those steps, and you should be able to install the Merbon SCADA. You should be able to log in as a domain user or domain admin into the Merbon SCADA, and you should be able to create more users and user groups in the domain server. And I think that we'll be able to give you this project as well, so you'll be able to try it on your license and try the export and try to get through the export process. As I said before, it is described in the implementation manual. This one is Czech one, but you can find the English version on the website as well. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us and ask us those questions. As I said before, it usually works without any problem on new computers, but on computers that are used on regular basis as a daily drive computer, there can be some not issues but challenges to go through, but we should be able to make it working on any computer you want. So this is the basics of Merbon SCADA. If you have any question right now, you can try to type it into the chat, and I will try to answer it. If you don't have any questions, I will thank you for your time, and again I will apologize for the technical problems I have here with the alarm server and other stuff. I hope it's going to be better in the future. So I will give you a few, I don't know, 2 minutes. If you have any questions, you can type it into the chat here on YouTube. If you don't have any questions, thank you for your time. So I don't see any questions there. So thank you for your time and have a nice day and the rest of this week.